I have some great HOA stories for you today, and you're going to love that title story too. Here's our first one: Fraudulent HOA Extortion, posted by Tam Tam Lee. I posted on here a while back with perhaps one of the craziest HOA stories around. I'm dealing with a fraudulent HOA at work in my neighborhood. This group calls itself a neighborhood fund, but when the neighborhood was subdivided, there was no HOA covenant added to deeds, thus no mandatory HOA. It was started by a resident as a temporary 3-year fix to the right-of-way road and has never ended, expanding to all kinds of neighborhood concerns. Cutting down trees, no lanterns, too many cars, dealing with renters, and as a gossip email chain, nicknaming different properties with petty put-downs and a lot of other petty garbage. The leaders of this group outnumber the members by far. There have been about 7 different leaders. They hold the reserve funds and do a collection which goes directly into the leaders' private bank accounts, where they mix their personal money with the alleged communal funds. There are no elections, no articles of declaration, no financial disclosures. They use different email exchanges for people that they like and those that they don't to demand money, so it's never clear who is paying and who is not. We have seen communal funds being used to repair homes and driveways of the leaders of this fund. My family has refused to participate since 2012 due to what we believe is a misuse of funds. In 2016, I sent a certified cease and desist letter to the leader of this group, stating that the money demands needed to end. We began to be relentlessly harassed, where this leader started following us around the neighborhood when we were walking and honking her horn. We later learned that this fund and group actually is tied to the local town government in the small remote town where I live. The founder is the zoning board president and just keeps getting reappointed to that position for the last 15 years. 6 of its other leaders are all town planning and zoning officials. We have witnessed all kinds of kickbacks, with most recently 5 of this fund's leaders and members and their relatives being named to new created positions on the town board within the past 2 years. They have used their private email exchange to engage with their select members and non-board residents on local laws under current review, where the public is limited to 1 public session and so on. They have failed to recuse on issues brought by members of their HOA to the Zoning and Planning Board repeatedly. They get all special perks in government, such as private use of the community center when the public must pay a use fee, and help with grants and grant funding for their private employment. It's a mess. Last year, in June 2022, I had the newest leader of this group, a recently retired state official with a regional title, come to our private property and refuse to leave, delivering on us a personalized money demand. He was confrontational and argumentative when I told him to leave. He had previously trespassed twice on our property, caught on camera, and he knew he was not welcome on our property. I called the police, but the local police, or state police, in this remote region are also corrupt. They sent the relative of one of the leaders of this group, who happens to be a state trooper and also had lived in the neighborhood for a year, leaving 2 months prior to this incident, to take the complaint and to dispose of it. Flash forward to this May 2023, and this same individual/leader who demanded money brought a hired bulldozer and began digging up our driveway entrance and smashing our front fence so that the fence dislodged and we have a large hole in the slope of our driveway, which makes the car bounce and scrape. They have done this several times in the past as well. I videoed the whole event. I also have what I believe is a video of a white Escalade undercover police car passing by during the damage and before I called the police. The police refused to take action when we called to report the incident, and the supervisor told us that they were just pushing dirt around and they were just making a 3-point turn. He said this before they had even located the responsible party. They didn't even send a trooper to look at the damage. They didn't investigate, even though this was at the very least a hit and run. They have not given me the license or insurance of the tractor. In fact, the police officer assigned to the case told us that he couldn't find the people responsible, even though I told him it was the leader of the HOA. And he told me instead that he contacted a town government official and was evasive when we asked why. Since the property destruction, I have submitted a complaint to Internal Affairs alleging attempted extortion and detailing this unlawful slush fund being kept by town government officials. I am not sure Internal Affairs will do anything at all, and I may have to take this elsewhere. Sure, I can sue and may, but unfortunately, I have talked to 2 other families being similarly harassed by these town officials, and I learned that the county court is also corrupted. This is a very remote mountain region, and so things are quite corrupt and backwards around here. Legal fees to fight an HOA can be very high and prohibitive, especially if the fight is already an uphill battle. Not only do we have to fight this fraudulent HOA, but the corrupt town government and the corrupt police. I believe I have enough evidence, video, written records, and photos that they are attempting to extort us and that the way they are raising money is fraudulent since it is all undeclared. In my state, New York, mandatory and voluntary HOAs must file taxes and register as a nonprofit court where they then fall under review of the Attorney General. However, the Attorney General does not take up a case where the state is a party. They won't go against state interests, such as state police. I'm posting this if anyone has any advice or specific knowledge about extortion, fraudulent money raising, police corruption, and so on. Updates in the comments section. Ben Skywalker 70 asked OP, take everything, keep copies, to the state DA. Once you have refusal in writing, go fed. And OP replies, interesting, I didn't consider the state DA. Right now, it's supposedly being reviewed by the county DA, but my feeling is this person will not do anything. Next commenter asked, what are the odds that they're related to these same buttholes you've been dealing with all along? And they really meant the estate attorney general. And OP replies, yeah, probably. I'm not from the US. I was meaning going above the DA that is potentially corrupt. I think I may have misspoke, probably meant the state attorney general, going above your local DA. Another commenter says, bet they're not paying taxes, and OP replies, they're 100% not, but not sure the IRS would do anything. OP gives another update and says, I placed FOIA request. I know there was no body cam kept for the investigation part of my report, and I also have 30 videos of multiple police vehicles coming and going from my private road in relation to this fund, meeting with the fund's leaders. Unfortunately, where I am, there are no local police, just state police, as it is very remote. Sadly, the superintendent was just fired for corruption like a year ago by the governor. I thought Internal Affairs will probably do nothing. It just seemed like my hands were a bit tied since state police are governed by the superintendent. Not sure if Internal Affairs might be better for state police? I do think they will likely retaliate. I mean, I'm probably not as afraid as I should be. I have 10 cameras on my property. Luckily, it is a part-time place, so I'm only there a few months of the year. I have a pit bull and a German shepherd. I actually really wish I understood a little more about keeping funds and laws around that. Like, is it illegal to commingle funds, or is it just considered not good or unethical? I don't know the laws regarding raising funds either. Like, is it legal to go to someone's door soliciting for an HOA-type entity? I know in my state, HOAs need to incorporate and file taxes, but this group keeps trying to claim that they are informal. I don't think this argument helps them at all, but I wish I had more financial knowledge because I think I would strengthen my case. I mean, in my case, the person definitely knew he was not allowed on my property demanding money and refused to leave. But I don't really know the laws on this more generally. I know like solicitors have to get permits in my town, and I've spoken to some lawyers and, to be honest, not all of them know the financial specifics either. It seems to fall outside of some of the standard specialties. I beat the HOA. I won't be forced to join. Go Lawyers! Posted by Danakius. So, earlier this month, I purchased a property in real estate lien auction. The property was in a voluntary HOA that had 100% membership. My attorney looked into the situation and drafted a proposal and sent it to the HOA via registered mail. He drafted up a proposal agreement with the HOA with the following conditions. First off, the property owner has unrestricted access to any community-owned roadways, gates, and so on necessary to access his property. Now, this does not constitute joining the HOA also. The property owner will have to pay a figure monthly to the HOA to contribute to the non-government owned infrastructure at his discretion. The amount is non-negotiable and not legally required. It's merely an acknowledgement that the assets exist and have cost for their upkeep. Now, the property owner will not be held to any HOA standards and does not and will not get any voting rights in the HOA also. Any further attempts to get the property owner to join will be considered harassment. Now, cashing of these attached checks constitutes agreeing to these terms, and the HOA will provide any necessary access codes for the property owner to use for visitors, contractors, and so on. They received it and signed for it. That day, the harassment from the HOA stopped. A week later, their attorney sent back a response. Danakius, the HOA board has met. They do not appreciate your unneighborly attitude and are not agreeing to your terms. However, they acknowledge that your claim to unrestricted access to your property may have legal merit if the issue is taken to court. I have been instructed to give you a gate access code attached below. You will not be given a key fob to the gate, as it would give you unrestricted access to their clubhouse. Furthermore, they are notifying you of the following. The roadway and sidewalk are both HOA property, and they reserve the right to remove any illegally parked vehicles or other property. This is, however, a legal acknowledgement that you will not be held to their community standards. They are also requesting some leeway regarding harassment, as community notices may inadvertently be delivered. Finally, they are returning the check uncashed. Signed, the HOA attorney. I'm not quite understanding how. This doesn't constitute them agreeing to my terms, though. They are giving me everything I want and are turning down my gift towards the upkeep of the road and gate. Updates in the comments. Sean BZA posts this and OP replies with more. He says, you have access, so you can give the key code out to anybody who wants to visit you or has to come to you. So you cannot park on the road or the sidewalk, so it's time to put up a nice fence up on the edge of your property with the no trespassing signs on it, paint a yellow line at the border with your driveway and the sidewalk, and keep the number of the HOA towing company, should be posted by the gate, in your phone to call for towing if anybody parks by the driveway, plus a camera to cover this area as well. They change the gate code immediately, you sue them, especially if you were not communicated in this in advance. Also, invite all of your immediate neighbors over for a welcome party to make yourself known as the good person in the area. And OP replies, yeah, the only thing you left out was a gaudy neon paint job on the house and an inflatable hot tub in the front yard and 8 non-functioning vehicles in the front yard. I mean, as long as I'm not blocking the driveway, right? So I put in a call to a solar company to come out and to do a quote on installing solar, completely not allowed by the HOA bylaws. So going to have to do it for sure. Now note, I'm not going to finance it, no contract and so on. That's how those turkeys make their money. All joking aside, today I mowed my lawn, started at 7 a.m. before it got too hot and knocked that out. Since I measured twice, I'm going to cancel my long-term parking for my RV and move it there, since my driveway is plenty long enough. Plus, I can sleep in the RV while I'm getting the house into livable shape. I'd throw a party, but the big issue with that is that it's not livable yet. As in, it's a toxic disaster and I can't live in it. I have a call for a 12-foot dumpster to come in as well, and the trash company is going to drop it in the driveway. I'm also in the market for the tallest and ugliest ham radio tower I can get. No actual interest in using though, just in case. Sean replies, keep the neighbors happy, just put solar on and enough LED spots all aimed to cover the property without spill that the street lights look dim by comparison. Dumpster on the lawn, not on the street. You can fix the lawn after it leaves, citing the reason it is on the lawn as the HOA busybodies not wanting it on the street for some reason, so lawn it is. No need for a tower, just look at the approved color list and paint just a few shades different, not garish, just enough to distinguish from the surrounds. Follow with making the contrasting colors different from the rest and put a nice door trim color in. Subtle, but it works so much better. Oh yes, first find the boundaries and mark them off with some post and danger tape, and follow up with that orange construction temporary plastic fencing because you're going to be working there and want to not damage the HOA property in any way. Safety first. Nothing ticks off the busybody Karens more than subtle, especially if you're keeping within the letter of the law for the township you are in, but not the HOA ones. And OP replies, once I move in, I'm getting an above ground pool because the HOA rules say no. Commenter Little Bit Evil says, I don't see an attorney using unprofessional language as in unneighborly attitude. I'm doubting it was an attorney who responded and impersonating one could cause trouble. I'm sure your attorney is going to have some fun, especially over the roads and sidewalks part. OP replies, screw them either way. They stopped harassing me about joining and hopefully took the hint. In reply, I'm betting since it's a voluntary HOA, the street and the sidewalk are still city easements. Your local clerk can confirm if you show them any documents of the HOA trying to claim ownership, and then the city will have legal grounds for action. OP replies, the legal status is convoluted. It's not mandatory, but they only sold the properties to people who signed the HOA documents. One of the first documents they force you to sign is a right of first refusal when selling the property, as in, you are giving the HOA the right of first refusal. In simple terms, if the person you're selling to doesn't want to sign the HOA documents, the HOA can instead buy the property back for the same price you're offering it for and then resell it themselves, but only to someone who signs the documents. Instead of doing all that, they can just butt their heads in and threaten the buyer with blocking their sale unless they sign the HOA documents. This has kept HOA membership at 100%. Until I came around. I bypassed all of the signing of the HOA by buying the property at a sheriff's auction. The state gave no craps about the contract. All they cared about was the court orders to sell the property to repay the lien holders. HOA story time. Everything the association does causes damages. Posted by Bustacode. Just a vent, but this stuff is getting old. Single family home, about 50 units. Seems this association finds the most incompetent vendors and unleashes them on the residents. First off, they hired a power washing company to clean siding. It left everyone's windows spotted and the overspray affected car finishes. Most homes are 2 stories and we can't clean our windows. They even hired an irrigation company to repair broken underground feeder pipes. They cut my underground cable TV and internet cable when digging up the yard. And now, a landscaping company is ripping out all the plants and rocks around every home, doing a halfway butt job, and just found out that one of the workers deliberately cut a cable on my property going into my house. Found out the total cost of that project was over $250,000. Several of us have mice problems. The HOA document states that the HOA is 100% responsible and owns all outside walls. I asked the HOA to remedy our mice problems, and nope, not their responsibility. Well, how else are the mice getting in if not through their walls? So we asked the management company to follow bylaws and post date, time, and place of each meeting in accordance with the bylaws. No. We even asked the management company to post the minutes of past monthly meetings in accordance with the bylaws. Blown off and never posted. We sent in the request for approval to replace a sliding door. We have a sign-off form for that, and after much chatter among the HOA board, I get an email saying only approved. The door company refused to accept that and said that we won't install the door until they see that the request was signed off officially. In a few days, we're going to have our dryer vents blown out, but really in as they're doing it from the outside. No opt-out, so I guess I'll just have lint blown into my dryer. My neighbor has had to purchase asphalt on his own and repair a huge pothole on HOA-owned road, as the management company did nothing about it for three whole years. I'm just really beginning to hate it here and dealing with all these stupid issues. I once was helpful around here, fixing children's playground equipment for free, doing small jobs for the association so they didn't need to pay huge fees for tiny projects. No more of that. Do you agree with this idea to get some lawyers? Not posting meetings, agendas, or minutes are probably just a violation of law, not just bylaws depending on your state. Throwing a couple $100 at a lawyer to write a letter informing them of the laws that are breaking might convince them to get their act together, or at least leave the job to someone who will. The lawyer can mention the other issues where the HOA is breaching their duty as well. It's somewhat counterproductive to sue your HOA since you'll end up paying whether you win or lose, but the threat of a lawsuit can be effective. How would you handle this one? HOA finds me illegally and breaks the law. I fight back. Here's how. Click the video on your screen. You don't want to miss the crazy story here, and I'll see you there.